Hey everyone, welcome back to Gaming Safe Space. And today we're diving into something I've been mulling over for a while now. With Indiana Jones and the Great Circle hitting PlayStation 5 soon, I figured it's the perfect time to talk about well, why I gave up on this game. Yeah, I didn't finish it, and I've got some thoughts. So, grab a snack, settle in, and let's unpack this adventure, or lack thereof, together. First off, a little background on me and Indiana Jones. I'm not what you'd call a die-hard indie fan. I've seen all the classic movies at least twice: Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and I skipped the latest one, Dial of Destiny. Not because I hate the franchise or anything, just, hey, it didn't grab me. That said, I've always had a soft spot for Harrison Ford. The guy's a legend, right? Han Solo, Deckard from Blade Runner, and of course, the whip-cracking archaeologist himself. So when Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was announced, I wasn't jumping out of my seat, but I was curious, especially since it was coming from Machine Games. Now, Machine Games, I've got some love for them. Last year, I finally played through Wolfenstein, The New Order and Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and I was impressed. Those games are fast, brutal, and they've got this pulpy energy that I vibe with. So, hearing they were tackling Indiana Jones, I thought, okay, this could be cool. I mean, who doesn't want to see a studio known for Nazi-punching take on treasure hunting and tomb raiding? Plus, I'm a sucker for adventure games. Growing up, my love for this kind of stuff came from movies like The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. You know, the Brendan Fraser ones. Those films had it all: lost tombs, ancient curses, and that perfect mix of action and charm. So yeah, I was hoping Great Circle would scratch that itch. But here's the thing, it didn't. I tried, I really did. I got all the way to the Vatican level, did every bit of side content I could find, and I just couldn't keep going. I put the controller down and haven't picked it back up since. So, what went wrong? Let's break it down. First up, the competition. When you're making an adventure game about a whip-wielding explorer in 2025, you're going up against some heavy hitters. I'm talking Uncharted. Nathan Drake set the bar sky high for this genre. Tight controls, cinematic storytelling, and that third-person perspective that just feels right for climbing cliffs and dodging traps. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle had to bring its A-game to stand out, and for me, it didn't. It felt like it was stuck in this weird middle ground, not quite living up to the modern greats, but not fully leaning into something unique either. One of the biggest issues for me was the perspective. This game's in first person, and I'm just not sold on that choice. I get it. Machine Games has a history with first-person shooters, and maybe they wanted to stick to their roots. But for an Indiana Jones game, I wanted third-person. I wanted to see Indy swinging that whip, dodging boulders, or sneaking through ruins. First-person felt clunky, especially for stealth. Oh man, the stealth in this game drove me up the wall. It's like the enemies had X-ray vision or something. I'd be crouching behind a crate thinking I'm hidden, and bam, spotted. It didn't feel fair, and it definitely didn't feel fun. Then there's the gameplay itself. I don't know if it's just me, but the controls felt off. Moving Indy around in first person was awkward, like he was trudging through mud half the time. The whip mechanics were kinda cool at first, but they got old fast. I kept thinking, this could have been so much smoother in third person. And don't get me started on the combat. Punching Nazis should feel satisfying, right? It's an Indiana Jones staple. But here, it was just, meh. I never got that punchy, adventurous vibe I was craving. Now, let's talk about the story. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just slow. Like, really slow. By the time I got to the Vatican, I felt like I'd been playing for hours, and nothing big had happened yet. Sure, there's some intrigue, some puzzles, but it didn't hook me. I kept waiting for that moment where I'd be like, oh, now I'm in it. You know, like when Rick O'Connell finds the Book of the Dead in The Mummy. But it never came. I did all the side content too, thinking maybe that'd spice things up. Nope, just more fetch quests and busy work. At that point, I was basically forcing myself to keep going, and that's not how games should feel. Okay, here's a big one. Troy Baker as Indiana Jones. Look, I respect Troy Baker. The guy's a voice-acting titan, Joel from The Last of Us, Booker from BioShock Infinite. He's got range. But as Indy, I wasn't feeling it. His voice kept slipping in and out of this Harrison Ford impression, and it was jarring. One minute he'd sound close to that gruff, sarcastic tone we all know, and then he'd just sound like Troy Baker. It pulled me out of the experience every time. And the motion capture? Oh boy. Something about Indy's face felt off. His eyes were too big or something, like he had this bug-eyed stare that creeped me out. It's not what I picture when I think of Harrison Ford cracking a whip. I know some people might say, well, it's not supposed to be Harrison Ford. It's a new take on Indy. Fair enough. But if you're going to go that route, lean into it. Make it distinct. Don't half commit to the impression and leave me stuck in this uncanny valley. Honestly, I think they should have either gone full original with a new voice or just used archive audio of Harrison if they could. Anything but this weird in-between. So, where does that leave me? I gave Indiana Jones and the Great Circle a solid shot. I wanted to like it. I really did. MachineGames has talent, and the idea of an indie game in 2025 sounded awesome on paper. But between the clunky first-person gameplay, the slow story, and a take on indie that didn't click for me, I just couldn't stick with it. I'm not saying it's a terrible game. Maybe some of you out there love it, and that's cool. But for me, it didn't capture that adventurous spark I was chasing. It didn't feel like Uncharted. It didn't feel like The Mummy. And it didn't even feel like the Indiana Jones I know from the movies. What do you all think? Have you played Great Circle? Did you stick with it? Or did you bounce off it like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear if I'm alone on this, or if some of you feel the same. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. Maybe next time I'll talk about something I actually finished, like Wolfenstein or a good old Mummy rewatch.